see, that's growing up in art.
Absolutely.
I see the obvious faults, and there's things right back to the very first one. There are bits I would simplify now. Why use 10 strokes when you just need one?
But that, as you say, is how
that's a lifetime.
how it's come
that's
to you.
taken you 70 years to get to here. 70 years.
And here you are, with this amazing exhibition.
And this to me is the culmination, and especially in the Maclaurin.
As you were our first patron, it's perfect, Helen.
That there are so many people here, and as I said, I'm not at all surprised because it is for Helen. Helen, who was the first patron of the Maclaurin Gallery, and we are thrilled to bits to have this exhibition of her work. And she is going to tell you all about it. Just to also say that we were making a short film tonight, which in a couple of weeks, or maybe even less, will be playing in continuous loop in the gallery, so it will. Did I not tell you? There you go. So there'll be lots to do and lots to see, and it is a wonderful story because she started off in carpet design, and then she moved into this kind of things we know her for now, but there's no point in me telling you about it, because she's going to tell you about it herself.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry you're standing at the back. With no idea so many people would come to hear me blabber, because I just tend to chitter-chatter. But if you could all just come in out the cold and come down here. You can come right down in here. There's a wee bit of space in here, and you know, you're a big man though. You take up a lot of space. You're a big man.
That's a bit naughty.
You know, a bit naughty. You go on through there. There's another big man. There's another big man. You have to go through there too. It's so nice to see you. Very well. In you go. The smaller men can stay there. The smaller men. Well, I was going to start my little perambulation. I was going to stand up here because I thought there would be a small amount of you, but I can see you've come out in force, and I'm very grateful to that. Before I start talking, I'm going to say thank you to all the people that have helped me do this, because you don't do this, hang this all by yourself. And so I've got to thank Fiona Robertson, because she's a marvellous help, helping to arrange it, Mark for putting it up, and Di for helping to arrange it, the Trust for putting out the dosh, for the beautiful banners at the front gate. Isn't that a beautiful banner? And you know, when I look at it, I think, my goodness, fancy making a banner for me. It's so nice. It looks good. And the main thing is that I'm in this gallery, because these galleries are very important to us. We're all the friends of the gallery, and we've got to keep it going. And for me, to have my retrospective here is a great honour indeed. And I'm just loving every moment of it. But the journey didn't start here. It's kind of coming to its conclusion here. Not that I'm stopping painting, I'm going on painting. Unfortunately, this lady said, unfortunately, she's going on painting. But I intend to go on painting. I know you didn't. I know you didn't. So when I tend to go on painting, I would hope that I can develop from this. But the story doesn't start here. The story starts when I was about 8 years old. I knew I was going to be something in paint. I was wanting to work with paint. I didn't like school. I didn't want to learn to spell or any of these sensible things. I was just happy to get working with paint. So I knew I was all right. My mum and dad, on the other hand, were worried about what was going to become of me. And they were hopeful that maybe I'd get married and just settle down. But, you know, they were worried about where I was going in life. But hi, Margaret. I knew where I was going, and I was always wanting to be part of paint and use paint and paint pictures. And very early on, my dad used to bring home the the war posters, Graham Sutherland. Do you remember war? I'll need to look at an older person. Oh, I can't find one. I can't find one. The war posters. Do you remember Graham Sutherland's war posters? Anybody? Just anybody? Oh, well, never mind. That makes me older than all of you. So I used to copy those. And there were cathedrals all broken up, and puddles, and ropes, and tin cans. And there were beautifully muted beiges and blues. And I worked with those wee hard cakes that they give you at school that you get funny colour out of it. But my mother was sent for. And I didn't know this till years later. She told me that she'd been sent for to come down to see the teacher because they were worried about Helen as well. The world was worried about me. And she was worried, they were worried because I was producing these paintings that were not little houses with a washing line and a blue sky and a red roof and the mummy with the pram and the daddy coming home with his hat on. They weren't paintings like that. She said, Helen's paintings are broken buildings and puddles and broken roads, and we're thinking there's something wrong with her. And I said, wrong? What could be wrong with me? They were all out of step. So it was explained that I was using those posters and my dad was bringing them home, and perhaps that was influencing. So that was all glossed over. But at the early stages, I went into a competition, and I don't know whether any of you will remember Uncle John in the Daily Express. Do any of you remember him? Oh, I'm beginning to feel very much older. The Satchel Club. Oh, the Satchel Club. Well, I won the Satchel Club. It was for a drawing, and I won the satchel. And that started me on the road. But to be fair, I really wanted to do something with paint from a very early age. So I got my first opening when I went to Templeton's, and I went to Templeton's when I was 15. And they only trained you up to be copyists because ladies didn't get to be designers. That was a man's job, and we didn't get in there. So I knew that I wouldn't stay there very long because I wanted to make pictures of my own, like those ones through there. I wanted to do that. So I had to leave there, and I went on to Lyle's in Fornook Street, just down the road. But before I went, it was 1952, and the coronation of Queen Elizabeth was going to take place the following year. And Templeton's made the carpet. And I don't know if Gavin's here tonight, maybe not, but he would know it was 100 tufts of wool to the square inch. Now that, in a Wilton, that's a fantastic cloth. It's like a bit of wood. It doesn't move under your feet like this moves. It doesn't do that. It's like walking on a board. I walked on it. That's my claim to fame. I walked on the coronation carpet for Westminster. And it was a fantastic surface. So I packed in Thames, went to Lyle's, and they were advertising for ladies to train as carpet designers. And that was a big change because they had trained men, but men had got the training and then left and gone down south, got bigger money, and they'd been left in the lurch. So he had decided that he would move on to ladies. Now that's where I say in life there's a lot of luck. You get that wee bit of luck. And that was my bit of luck. I got my foot in the door of designing. And with Lyle's, I got a super training. From 8:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock, I had roses in a big tea chest, in a bottle, and a spotlight. And I kept turning them around and painting them. And you got 10 minutes to paint them. And if you hadn't finished in the 10 minutes, it didn't matter. He just came along and he turned them round. You weren't fast enough. So you learn to read flowers very quickly. And this stood me in very good stead for going outside, because outside I was working at that time in the forerunner of acrylic paints, the plastic paints, Angelo. And it dried so quick outside, I'm standing with my back to you. Okay. Is that okay? You can hear me okay? Oh, yeah. No. And I used this plastic paint. So the training I was getting in Lyle's made me fast, made me very quick. I could measure very quickly because the boss wouldn't let us linger. He'd just come along and you were doing a bit and he'd just turn it around. He'd say, oh, dash it all. He's turned it around. And then you'd have to start again and time it. And then you whittled it down to 5-minute studies. And when you got to 5-minute studies, you were really doing very, very well. So I found that the training and the drawing that you got in Lyle's was a super training, an apprenticeship like we're not having today. We're very few apprentices nowadays. Well, I was an apprentice. I was a slab boy, and I made up colours for all the big designers. I worked away with my trowel and made up colours. Then I got a wee shot at painting, developing the light in the box, and then I got doing designs. And as soon as I started, do you ever think in life you've found your niche? You pick up the brush and it's thick paint, it's lovely thick paint, and you put it on and you know you're where you want to be. Well, I knew at that moment that was where I wanted to be. I loved working with the thick paint and drawing the flowers and creating the designs. And when you eventually go through there, you'll be able to see what I mean. But my leaning is towards flowers. And I love doing roses and all kinds of flowers and scroll works, acanthus scrolls, anything like that. I loved that. So my years in Lyle's, I spent really developing. And then one day, as often happens, my boss, whose name was Richard Bird, but we kind of called him Dickie Bird. And unfortunately, I whistle a lot. And I'm never conscious I'm whistling, but unfortunately, I was whistling, got a little red robin, rock, walk, 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 walking to Missouri. The wee bird was a robin. And I must have been whistling it several times. But he came down and said, if you whistle that again, you won't have a job tonight. And you see, so I thought, I'll have to stop whistling birdie songs. However, I left there because one day he sat down at the desk and I had a beautiful back view painted of a flower. And the back view is the hardest view. And he wiped mine out and he did his version. And we looked at each other. And we instantly knew that I was better than him. And he knew I was better than him when he looked at me. Do you ever get, that's a feeling, another little sensation you get. I knew I was better. I knew I had to go. I knew I had to leave that company and go to another company. So I wrote Grays of Ayr and I moved on to Grays. And they were a magnificent company. They catered for carpets, I would have said, for millionaires. They were beautiful carpets and they had a colour bank of thousands. When I painted a design, as you'll see next door, they took the design and they matched the colours to it perfectly. And that might mean creating another tuft of colour that was marginally different to one they had, but no, they wanted it perfect. And some of their cloths were beautiful. A lovely, lovely company to work for, and we produced a lot of good cloths, and German market took the designs from Grays of Ayr, and I enjoyed it very, very much again. And when I started working for those companies, I had to find, first of all, when I was much younger, I had to find a mode of transport where I could get out with my boards and paint. And I had a pedal bike with a little power pack. I don't know whether any of you will remember the power packs on your bikes. Well, I had a little power pack, and you used to have to dry the tire if it was raining and pedal like the devil. And the engine fired, and that took you along the road. That helped you. That took me out to Waterfoot, Busby, Eaglesham for painting, and I made a little case to slide my boards in so that I was marginally dry, and I had a big high windscreen on. I must have looked, just imagine what that looks like going down the road with all this plastic flapping and this big high windscreen on a pedal bike and these boards all tied. I must have looked like an absolute freak. So after I got rid of that one, I bought a scooter. Do you remember Lambrettas and Vespas? Get along better, get a Lambretta. I didn't buy a Lambretta. I bought a Piatti, an Italian Piatti. I bought it because it was beautiful. It was like a sausage with two little wheels. And it had a beautiful windscreen, and it had a white tray at the back, and a white tray at the front, and a salmon pink seat. And it was beautiful, and it carried all my stuff. I put all my boards in the front and my paint box in the back. And I got on it, and it wouldn't go. It wouldn't go. I would try to make it go, but it would not go. Then eventually you would get it going. I would get out and try and get on your bike again to come home. It would not go. It was Italian. And I had a wee door down at the side of the sausage. There was a wee door, and the carburetor was in there, and it was lying on its side. I mean, you think of it now, it's silly. A carburetor is lying on its side, and it's right next to the water. You're going through a puddle, it's going to go right onto that. So that was the problem with it, but I made a lot of friends with that Piatti. I made a lot of friends. Where I worked in Lyles, next door, there was Montgomery Stone with a paint place. And Montgomery, the boss in there, used to come home behind me many nights in his car because I couldn't get my Piatti to change gear. We could only stay in first gear, which meant you were going very slowly, but the engine was screaming. So I thought after that I should get a car. So I bought a three-wheeler car, just to be different, a Bond minicar. And I travelled to Fenwick Moor with my Bond minicar with one wheel in the front and two wheels here. And you were almost sitting on the ground. You were so low, so low. But it used to snow in those days. And the Fenwick Moor, with the cars with four wheels on their wagon, they would go along and make a lovely track. We could all follow that track. But unfortunately, my one wheel went on the lump of snow that was going down the middle of the road. So I skited like that, all the way to Ayr, like that. That's what it was like when we had snow. And the other thing was coming home when there was a fog. I used to put my head out the plastic windows. You know, I'd put the head so as I could see something on the road to tell me where I was. But there was nothing on the road. You used to have little segs, white things, and then they had cat's eyes. But when I got in, my face was absolutely black with the fog. And because your eyes were watering, you